campaigns are maybe not about perfection. What they are about is contrast. And there's a dramatic contrast that we have today. We're presented with a man who claims to be Catholic, who hasn't had a job since he was 29 years old outside of politics. He's in his 80s and he's having a hard time walking around. And in contrast, we have a man who's already been president before, who came from the outside, who was an entertainer. He was building businesses, and he was roundly liked by people, even people who didn't agree with him politically. They didn't hate him until he got down that elevator and said he was running for president. It's interesting to compare these two. I want to compare them, though, in the lens of the company they keep. And what does that mean when you come to the voting booth in November? There are people that are 100% behind Donald Trump. They love him. They'll turn out in the rain and the shine. They will stand in the heat, in line to see the man going around the block. Those are not the people we're talking to right now. I'm talking to the people that are kind of on the fence, that look at him as an imperfect vessel. There's a couple of things that we can look at, both as Christians and also just as Americans who want to keep more money in our wallet. God often works with imperfect vessels, that God draws straight with crooked lines. I think that's very true. People who have done all kinds of things in their life will suddenly have a moment where they are the force for good. They are an agent of God's power in the world in a way that we would never expect. It's interesting to compare these two. I want to compare them, though, in the lens of the company they keep. The people that Biden nominated in 2021, they were dramatically and overwhelmingly people who had experience in government. Now, you might think that's not a bad thing, except the results have been pretty catastrophic. Has that always been the case? Is that how all cabinets are run? It turns out not. Donald Trump only had about 65%. We're talking about 2 in 3 versus 95 in 100 under Joe Biden. That's a shocking and stark contrast. And who is that company that Joe Biden keeps? Got people like Xavier Becerra, guys who went to the mat as a attorney general in California, who were going and telling nuns that they had to issue birth control. A guy who defended DACA and tried to keep it under the Trump administration, even though it was just sort of like created out of whole cloth and was dramatically expanded under Obama. And then that Xavier Becerra, who was the Attorney General of California, he's now the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Who else did he get in there? He brought in Alejandro Mayorkas, a guy who actually, under Obama, made DACA a reality in the way that it is today. Shocker. We've got a border problem because the two guys, the DHS secretary and the Health and Human Services secretary, both of them really agree that DACA was the right move, that opening our border up was their policy prescription for this country. We also had chief economic advisors that have no background in economics. We just saw it in the news recently. There's this bumbling guy named Jared Bernstein, and people went like, why does that guy not know how to handle the economy? It turns out because his background is in social work, which means he cares about feelings and he cares about people's well-being, but he doesn't necessarily know how to make it better. And then you look and you think about who's in charge of our DOJ. Who are the people that are writing the ticket on punishing Catholics, going after pro-lifers? We've got people like Kristen Clark. Imagine going on a job interview and fundamentally lying about whether or not you've ever been arrested. Now do it under oath in front of the Senate. What a weird choice to make. Why would you think that's acceptable? And then you're going to take the Civil Rights Division for the DOJ and you're going to turn it into a weaponized arm of the government to go after pro-life Catholics and Christians? Who allowed that? Merrick Garland, who cut his teeth in the DOJ prosecuting the Oklahoma City bombing, who really, really wanted to be on the Supreme Court and is probably pissed that he didn't get to weigh in on the Dobbs decision. Merrick Garland has turned our DOJ into an agency that is wholly focused on domestic terrorism. You just look and see, this looks like government overreach. This looks like a government that is not respecting civil liberties. This looks like a government that doesn't respect freedom of religion, that doesn't respect the freedom to keep and bear arms, to express yourself, to have dissent, the things that are most important in this country. And that brings us to a DOJ that is trying to imprison Donald Trump, and even a state of New York that is talking about putting him in jail for speech. A man that is running for president is facing down the prospect of going to Rikers Island for speaking in the middle of a political campaign because some judge has decided to enforce a gag order. We don't even need to get into the problems that judge has when it comes to conflict of interest. We've seen a progression in this country of violations of the First Amendment, the violation of our ability to practice our faith, the violations of our ability to protest our government, petition for redress of grievances. The big ticket item would be working all that up to putting a former president into jail for speech. A man who owns his own platform on social media that he had to build up because he was censored everywhere else. We don't elect a person to be king in this country. We elect someone who implements policies. And you can objectively look at the policy decisions that have been done in the last 3 years and the ones that were done under 4 years of Donald Trump. For all the warnings that the media wants to throw out there, what I don't see is a man who was an authoritarian He didn't hold on to office. He didn't get rid of the ability to vote. He didn't disband the Congress, send the Senate home. None of those things happened. All of the fears the political left has been crying about on network television, they didn't exist. He turned over power, whether you like it or not, whether he agreed with the election or not. We have a new person sitting in that office, and that person's done a terrible job for civil liberties, for people who care about a pro-life position, for a guy that claims to be Catholic. He's done the most decidedly un-Catholic thing. He's pushed an agenda that is not good for those coming into this country illegally, not good for those people who live in this country and work near the poverty line, and not good for those of us who care about babies and repopulating and having basic Christian sentiments and values. He's been reckless with our money, spent it in ways that we wouldn't otherwise authorize, and he's turned the government into something it is not meant to be, an arbiter of good or bad. As Christians, we believe that actually is supposed to be outside of the government's realm. We outsource some of it for justice, but that's only to keep the public order. We don't go and say the morality should be decided by those who are in political power. That's kind of what's on the ballot right now. Do you think the government should be the decider of good and evil? And if so, do you think that the people that he's put around him, this Joe Biden has nominated into political office, are those people the ones that you want to be the arbiters? Or do you want to take the gamble and say, hey, you know what? We saw what 4 years look like. We could do 4 more years of a better economy, couple of mean tweets, somebody who isn't maybe the nicest to those, but is a combatant and creates a little bit of chaos. But the trade-off is lower taxes, better inflation record, no new wars. We're doing a referendum on things that we don't like. So if you're not a big fan of running on a campaign pro-abortion for a Catholic, that's a pretty good stance to go and say, as a Christian, as a Catholic, you can't vote for somebody that's running on abortion. And Joe Biden is most certainly doing that. He's campaigning for it. He's doing these blasphemous signs of the cross while talking about abortion. That's problematic. So you can actually do the vote of elimination. If you're not voting for a Joe Biden, then your options are basically RFK, also pro-abortion, and Donald Trump. I also look at the fact that this man has basically promised that if you give him more and more power, then he's going to do great things for it. And all they've proven is that they can run up the cost of housing, they can run up the inflation, the cost of your groceries, they can run down the value of your dollar, and then they can also run us down on the world stage. If you have children and you don't want them to go to war, it seems like a pretty clear vote. If you're a young person and you're thinking, hey, I'm not real crazy about being drafted into a US versus Russia 2.0. I don't want to see what a world war looks like in the Middle East. It's an easy vote. You don't have to be in favor of one. You can simply look at the alternative and say, it's not going real well on the other side. I think I'm going to vote against a Joe Biden. Again, judge them by the people they keep. Look at who's out there speaking on their behalf. Do you want the values that think America is a very bad, no good, racist place? Is that the America that you live in? Is that the way you look at the country? Or do you want people who love this country, who will do anything for it, that extol American values? Because those people are all on one side at this point. You may not be a guy who says, rah, rah, Donald Trump, but you can very easily be someone who says, I don't think Biden has ever earned a second look at this job. That's kind of where I sit. I'm not trying to elect someone to be a role model to my children. I'm trying to elect someone who leaves more money in my pocket so I can decide what my kids are about, homeschool them the way that I like, and give them my values without having the government come and kick down my door over it. Just remember, we are going to be judged by the company we keep. I think that's going to be a pretty easy decision for most people. If you're not following Catholic Vote on YouTube, on Rumble, on all the channels, make sure you subscribe, make sure you give us a thumbs up and a like on this video and share it around if you like. I will happily be judged by the company I keep on this channel. We appreciate all of you guys following the channel and sharing it out there. Get this message out there as you start doing some critical thinking and look between the lines. I'm Kyle Seraphin. I look forward to seeing you next time. God bless you. Take care.